Young Frankenstein wasn't just another comedy. It was a full-blown resurrection of vintage horror and screwball satire, brought back to life in glorious black and white. But what unfolded behind the camera was just as chaotic, defiant, and unforgettable as what made it onto the screen. From clashing with the studio over creative control to hidden gags, surprise cameos, and accidents that turned into brilliance, this classic nearly collapsed under its own madness. Yet somehow, it became one of the most beloved cult films of all time. Here are 25 weird secrets about Young Frankenstein you probably didn't know, starting with a battle over color that nearly ended the film before it began. Number 1. The battle for black and white. Not everyone was ready to resurrect the past, especially not in black and white. When the idea was first pitched, the studio panicked. To them, color was king in the 1970s, and releasing a comedy without it felt like cinematic suicide. But the creative team behind the project had other plans. Specifically, one uncompromising director who refused to let studio preferences ruin the film's aesthetic. Determined to honor the original Universal monster films, the director insisted on shooting in black and white from the very beginning. Studio executives fought back with promises of more funding, splashier marketing, and even test reels in color. But he held the line. If they forced color, he said he'd walk. In a last-ditch compromise, the studio relented, but with one odd condition. No one was allowed to mention that the movie was black and white in any of the advertising. It was a silent victory and a strange one, but it allowed the filmmakers to stick to their vision. In the end, it wasn't about nostalgia, it was about rebellion. That choice gave the movie its haunting beauty and helped it stand the test of time. Number 2. The scene that saved the movie. Sometimes the moment that defines a film almost doesn't make it in. During early production, there was intense debate over a now iconic scene involving a monster in a tuxedo and a Broadway number. The idea seemed absurd, even to the director. It felt too long, too theatrical, too far removed from the tone of the rest of the film. He pushed hard to cut it, but the lead actor didn't agree. He believed in the gag, in the timing, and in the surprise. For days, the two argued, with the director insisting it would derail the film's rhythm. Finally, he gave in and let them shoot it, just to prove it wouldn't work. Then came the playback. Full costume, lights, music, audience reaction. Everything clicked. The director didn't just approve the scene, he admitted it might be the best thing in the entire movie. That dance, that absurd duet of growls and high notes, didn't just survive the cut. It became the film's most quoted moment. What started as a creative standoff turned into comedy gold. Number 3. Chaos behind the comedy. What looked like seamless humor on screen was often born from sheer improvisation and rebellion on set. Two of the film's stars had a habit of whispering between takes, secretly tweaking lines, adjusting punchlines, and playing with timing. It wasn't part of the plan, and the director didn't appreciate the surprises. Again and again, they were told to stick to the script, but they didn't. Instead, one actor even changed his character's accent mid-scene without warning anyone. The camera rolled, and the unexpected delivery had the entire crew in stitches. Chaos took over. The director was furious until he watched the playback. What he saw wasn't just funny, it was surreal and electric. The humor had taken on a life of its own. That one moment flipped his thinking, and instead of shutting it down, he gave the actors more space. It wasn't that he suddenly loved the chaos, it's that he recognized brilliance when he saw it. And that creative risk helped shape some of the most memorable moments in the film. Number 4. The monster was melting. Wearing layers of latex, glue, and prosthetics sounds uncomfortable, but under hot studio lights, it turned into something nearly unbearable. The actor playing the monster endured hours of makeup application daily, only to have it literally start melting once filming began. As cameras rolled, sweat pooled underneath the prosthetics. His forehead bubbled, fake scars began to droop, and pieces of latex slipped out of place. Entire scenes had to be paused while the crew rushed to cool him down and reapply the collapsing face. Despite the physical toll, he pushed through with barely a complaint. Between takes, he danced in a tuxedo, stumbled through scenes, and delivered a performance so memorable, no one noticed how uncomfortable it must have been. It wasn't just makeup, it was endurance disguised as a monster. His calm professionalism turned a melting mess into movie magic, one shaky scar at a time. Number 5. Igor's hump gag wasn't in the script. Some of the film's most memorable laughs weren't written, they were smuggled in. One subtle recurring gag had viewers scratching their heads. Igor's hump kept changing sides. In one scene, it's on the right. Later, it shifts to the left. Then it vanishes altogether. Strangely, no one ever mentions it. That wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. The actor behind Igor decided, without telling the director or the makeup team, to move the hump from scene to scene just to see if anyone would notice. The crew was baffled, the audience was confused, and once the director finally caught on, he burst out laughing. Instead of removing it in editing, they left it exactly as it was. It became one of the film's quietest running jokes, never explained or addressed, but always there if you paid close attention. It's the kind of mischief that gave the film its strange genius, humor hidden in plain sight. Number 6. Leechman's cold magic. Some performances don't chase the laugh. They pull it out of others without even trying. When the actress stepped into the role of Frau Blücher, she didn't deliver loud punchlines or exaggerated comedy. Instead, she brought something sharper and stranger, an icy calm, clipped speech, and an accent that floated somewhere between Transylvania and nowhere. Her seriousness caught everyone off guard. While others leaned into parody, she played it straight, so straight in fact that her castmates couldn't stay composed. Line after line, they cracked. One actor had to turn away. Even the camera crew struggled to hold still. Rather than ask her to tone it down, the director made a bold choice. They cut around the laughter, piecing together scenes from moments when the crew could keep it together. Her performance remained untouched. That restraint became power. She didn't break character, she broke everyone else. And in doing so, she quietly stole the show. Number 7. Teri Garr was a last-minute choice. Some casting choices are carefully planned. Others happen in the final hours and turn out to be perfect. Originally, the role of Inga was meant for a more traditional actress, someone with classical training and a polished dramatic presence. But behind the scenes, disagreements over tone and direction left the part suddenly open. That's when a quiet recommendation changed everything. With cameras almost ready to roll, a trusted co-star suggested a different name, someone who hadn't auditioned with flair but understood the film's rhythm instinctively. She showed up with no big expectations, no grand introduction, and absolutely nailed the tone. Instead of playing Inga as a joke, she made her feel in on it, warm, flirtatious, and self-aware. From her very first read-through, it was clear the search was over. She wasn't a backup or a compromise. She was the character, and no one ever looked back. Number 8. Hackman's one-day cameo. Some cameos are carefully scripted. Others come from unexpected conversations on a tennis court. During a casual match, one well-known dramatic actor mentioned to the film's star that he'd love to try something funny for once. Just one role, nothing too serious. That offhand comment turned into one of the most memorable scenes in the movie. He was cast as the blind hermit who offers soup, wine, and cigars to the monster, completely unaware of his guest's inability to respond. With no rehearsal and only one day to shoot, he stepped into the scene and delivered every beat with perfect sincerity. In just a few hours, he poured hot soup in the monster's lap, lit his thumb on fire, and smashed furniture trying to help, all without cracking a smile. What could have been a throwaway gag became a highlight. His dry delivery and comic timing surprised everyone, proving that even a serious actor could leave audiences laughing long after the credits rolled. It's the kind of performance that doesn't feel like a cameo. It feels like a classic sketch in the middle of a classic film. Number 9. Brooks banned himself from acting. In most of his films, the director couldn't resist stepping into the spotlight, playing multiple roles, stealing scenes, and winking at the audience. But this time, he was told to stay out of frame. The lead actor insisted that any recognizable face, especially one so associated with comedy, would break the illusion of the film's 1930s horror homage. At first, the request seemed extreme, no cameo at all, not even a brief appearance. But the director understood the vision. He agreed to stay behind the camera, mostly. Though his face never appears on screen, his voice is another story. Listen closely and you'll hear him howling like a wolf, screeching like a cat, and even mimicking the whistle of a distant train. It was his way of leaving a signature without leaving a trace. By removing himself visually, he let the story breathe. And through those background sounds, he still left his fingerprints all over the film. In the end, he didn't need to be seen. His presence echoed in every bizarre sound effect that helped make the comedy stick. Number 10. Real Frankenstein lab equipment used. Creating a convincing mad scientist lab isn't easy, unless you happen to find the original parts still intact. While preparing for the film's most visually striking scenes, the creative team set out to find authentic-looking lab equipment. What they discovered was beyond anyone's expectations. They tracked down Kenneth Strickfaden, the designer who had built the original machinery for the 1931 Frankenstein film. Shockingly, he still had most of the equipment sitting in storage, dusty but functional. Tesla coils, arc generators, control panels, it was all there. Rather than replicate the design, the team did something even better. They borrowed history. The very same machines that powered Boris Karloff's monster were cleaned up and installed on the new set. This wasn't just homage, it was resurrection. And it helped blur the line between parody and authenticity, giving the film a surreal layer of legitimacy that even die-hard horror fans could appreciate. Number 11. A storm scene nearly sank the set. Creating a thunderstorm on a soundstage sounds exciting, until it becomes a real problem. For one of the most dramatic scenes in the film, the crew designed practical effects to mimic a lightning-filled downpour. They built custom rain rigs, wind machines, and flashing lights to make the moment feel authentic. But things got out of hand. The water pressure from the rain system burst its containment, causing a flood that quickly spread across the set. Lights began shorting out. Cast and crew scrambled to protect equipment and props as ankle-deep water soaked the floor. For a moment, it looked like the entire shoot would be delayed, but the team rallied. Working through the night, they dried out the set, repaired the damaged effects, and had everything ready to go the very next day. What ended up on screen was carefully choreographed chaos, but just behind the camera, it had nearly turned into a disaster. And in true mad scientist fashion, they brought the lab back to life before the sun even rose. Number 12. The horses screamed for a reason. One of the film's oddest running gags involves a very specific reaction. Every time a certain name is spoken, off-screen horses shriek in terror. It's bizarre, unexplained, and strangely hilarious. But the inspiration behind it wasn't just a random joke. It came from a very real memory. The director later revealed that the name reminded him of a strict, cold woman from his childhood. She was the kind of person who didn't need to raise her voice to terrify everyone in the room. That deep, lingering discomfort stuck with him for decades. So when developing the character tied to that name, he made sure the fear wasn't just felt by the people, but by the animals too. The sound cue turned into one of the most surreal and unforgettable details in the film. It's not just a laugh. It's a layered memory disguised as comedy. And once you know the backstory, the horse's reaction feels oddly justified. It's a reminder that even the strangest jokes can come from the deepest places. And in this case, fear became funny without ever needing to be explained. Number 13. The title nearly got changed. Titles can make or break a film, and this one almost didn't make it. Early in production, studio executives worried that the original title was too strange, too slow, and too literary. They pushed for more conventional options like Frankenstein Returns or Son of Frankenstein to better align with the horror legacy they thought audiences expected. But that suggestion sparked instant pushback. The lead actor, usually calm and cooperative, put his foot down. If the studio changed the title, he said, he'd walk away from the project completely. It wasn't a bluff. It was a stand for tone, identity, and creative intent. The director backed him. They knew that the weirdness of the title wasn't a weakness. It was the point. It hinted at humor, legacy, and contradiction all at once. Eventually, the studio relented. And that strange little name, Young Frankenstein, went on to become one of the most iconic film titles of its era. Sometimes, the fight to keep a name becomes part of what makes it unforgettable. Number 14. A joke that echoed into rock history. Sometimes a throwaway line ends up echoing far beyond the screen. In one particularly absurd moment, Igor hands the doctor a cane and says, Walk This Way. What follows is a perfectly timed physical gag. They both limp off in matching exaggerated fashion. It lands instantly with the audience, and the scene became a fan favorite. Years later, a rumor started circulating. That very joke inspired Aerosmith's famous hit, Walk This Way. According to some sources, members of the band saw the film while on tour and couldn't stop laughing at that scene. The phrase stuck. When they returned to the studio, the memory resurfaced. And the rest is rock history. Although the band never formally confirmed the connection, the timeline lines up a little too perfectly to ignore. Whether myth or truth, the idea that a comedy line might have helped title one of the most iconic rock songs ever adds a strange twist to the film's legacy. Comedy didn't just cross genres, it might have rewritten a piece of music history. It's one of those strange moments when a joke meant to last 5 seconds ends up echoing for decades. And whether coincidence or inspiration, fans of both the film and the song have never looked at the phrase the same way again. Number 15. One line nearly cost the film its rating. It wasn't violence or language that nearly pushed the film into restricted territory. It was one line. In the final act, as the monster prepares for a romantic moment with Elizabeth, she gasps dramatically and says, "The sweet mystery of life. At last, I've found you." The delivery was exaggerated, operatic, and clearly meant as a parody. But the ratings board didn't laugh. They flagged the moment as too suggestive for a PG rating, especially considering the context. The filmmakers were stunned. They argued that the line was a callback to a popular song, and that the entire setup was a joke, not something meant to provoke. It didn't matter. It took 3 rounds of edits, negotiations, and explanations before the board finally relented. The scene stayed, and the film kept its PG rating. It's a reminder that even the most innocent-seeming gags can stir up trouble in the eyes of censors, and that in comedy, timing isn't just everything. Sometimes it's the difference between PG and R. In the end, the line got a bigger reaction than anyone expected, both from the audience and the people grading it. Number 16. A quiet release turned into a smash hit. When the film was finished, the studio didn't see a blockbuster. It was black and white in an era of vibrant color, strange in tone, and didn't follow any familiar formula. Without a major promotional push or holiday release, expectations were modest at best. Some even considered it a niche experiment from a director known for pushing boundaries. But then, something unexpected happened. Audiences kept coming back. Word of mouth spread quickly, with viewers praising the film's clever writing, pitch-perfect parody, and unforgettable characters. What started as a quiet rollout soon became a full-blown hit. By the end of its theatrical run, the film had earned over $80 million on a budget of just under $3 million, an extraordinary return. It even outperformed several big-budget blockbusters released the same year. The studio hadn't believed in it, but the audience did. And that support turned a quirky black and white comedy into a cultural milestone. Number 17. Audiences thought it was a real sequel. Some films do such a convincing job at mimicking the past that they end up confusing people. When this one hit theaters, something unexpected happened. Older moviegoers began asking if it was a re-release or a long-lost sequel to the original Frankenstein films from the 1930s. The visual style played a big role. The use of black and white, old-school lighting techniques, and classic camera angles made it feel eerily authentic. Even the pacing and set design echoed the vintage horror genre with uncanny accuracy. A few audience members swore they had seen parts of it before, while others insisted it must have been shot decades earlier and only just resurfaced. But the truth was simpler and stranger. It was new, but it was made to look like it had always existed. The filmmakers never corrected anyone. In fact, they saw the confusion as a compliment. After all, the goal wasn't just to parody classic horror, it was to live inside it. Number 18. Oscar nods, but no wins. Comedies don't often get serious recognition from the Academy, especially those filled with visual gags, innuendos, and howling horses. But this one broke the mold. Despite its irreverent tone and black and white presentation, it earned 2 Oscar nominations, one for Best Adapted Screenplay and another for Best Sound. That alone was a victory. The film stood out in a year filled with dramatic epics and disaster movies. It was up against the likes of The Towering Inferno, which ended up taking home both awards. Still, the nomination proved that even the strangest comedies could be taken seriously by Hollywood's highest honors. The creators didn't express disappointment, they celebrated the recognition. After all, this was a monster parody with tap dancing and lightning bolts. Just being in the room was a statement. It showed that bold ideas, even the weird ones, had a place in the spotlight. And it reminded future filmmakers that risks weren't just worth taking. They might even get you to the Oscars. Number 19, preserved by the Library of Congress. Most comedies fade over time, remembered for a few laughs and little else. But this one achieved something much rarer. In 2003, it was added to the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, an honor reserved for films deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. It joined a select list that includes legendary dramas, groundbreaking documentaries, and cinematic milestones. What stood out about this entry was that it didn't play it safe. It was silly, stylized, and full of absurdity. And yet, that's exactly what made it special. The recognition wasn't just about preserving reels of film, it was about preserving impact. The registry acknowledged that laughter, when executed with craft and originality, is just as worthy of celebration as high drama or sweeping epics. For a movie filled with pratfalls and punchlines, being chosen as a piece of national heritage was more than just a nod. It was a validation of everything that made it great. It proved that comedy, when done right, isn't disposable, it's timeless. Number 20. The cast held a mock funeral. When filming wrapped, the cast and crew didn't just say goodbye quietly, they staged a mock funeral for the movie itself. Dressed in full costume and holding candles, they gathered in a somber yet playful ceremony to bury the project that had consumed their lives for months. It was equal parts bittersweet and absurd. The characters they had embodied, the chaos they had endured, and the laughter they had shared all came together in one final send-off. Some actors spoke eulogies, half in character, half as themselves, reflecting on the madness of making the film. The event captured the spirit of the production, irreverent, surreal, and deeply heartfelt. For everyone involved, it wasn't just the end of a shoot, it was the end of a unique, unforgettable chapter. This bizarre farewell perfectly summed up the movie's blend of humor and heart. It was a moment of closure wrapped in laughter, a reminder that sometimes the best way to say goodbye is with a smile and a little chaos. Number 21. The script was written in weeks. Sometimes lightning strikes fast. The entire script was reportedly drafted in just a few weeks. Inspired by a conversation mid-flight, the lead actor began writing scenes on a plane ride, and before long, he and the director had a nearly finished screenplay. The speed surprised even seasoned studio executives. Usually, scripts undergo endless rewrites and polish, but this one came together quickly and tightly. The result was a sharp, focused script, packed with clever dialogue and perfectly timed gags. Despite the rapid turnaround, the final product needed minimal changes during filming, a rare and impressive feat in comedy filmmaking. This lightning-fast creation helped keep the energy fresh and spontaneous throughout the movie. It showed that sometimes brilliance doesn't need months of polishing, it just needs the right spark. Number 22. Inspector Kemp's forgotten horror muse. The character of Inspector Kemp, with his wooden arm and exaggerated accent, wasn't just a random invention. The actor behind the role drew inspiration from a nearly forgotten German horror star from the 1930s. His performance was an homage, a nod to classic horror traditions that added an extra layer of authenticity. The wooden arm wasn't just a prop, it was a signature trait lifted from that earlier era, lending the character a weirdly iconic presence. Interestingly, many viewers don't realize the depth behind the comedy. The role bridges the gap between parody and genuine reverence for the old horror genre. By channeling that obscure influence, the film gained a quirky yet heartfelt tribute tucked inside its laughs. It's a reminder that even the strangest characters can carry a piece of cinematic history within them, hidden in plain sight. Number 23. Sound effects performed live on set. Most movies add sound effects in post-production, but this film took a different approach. To capture genuine reactions and timing, some sound effects, like thunder, animal noises, and creaking doors, were performed live during filming. This meant the cast had to react in real time to unexpected noises, often catching them off guard. The spontaneity added an extra layer of authenticity and humor, making scenes feel more alive and unpredictable. One memorable example was a thunderclap that startled actors during a quiet moment, causing an unscripted burst of laughter. These real-time sounds created a dynamic energy that couldn't have been replicated later. By performing effects live, the filmmakers blurred the lines between acting and reality, turning the set into a playground of surprise and genuine emotion. This technique gave the movie a fresh, unpredictable vibe, helping it feel spontaneous despite careful planning. It's a reminder that sometimes the best effects aren't added in post, they're created in the moment. Number 24. The original ending was a tragedy. Not all endings are happy ones, at least not initially. The film's original script closed with the doctor sacrificing himself during the experiment to save the monster. A dark and somber finale that shocked early test audiences. They hated it. The mood was too heavy, the tone inconsistent with the rest of the comedy. Viewers left the screenings confused, disappointed, and even a little upset. Some felt the ending didn't fit the overall spirit of the film, which was designed to be a loving parody with lighthearted fun. The filmmakers listened carefully and decided a change was necessary. They rewrote the ending to include a zany brain transfer gag, a romantic resolution, and a much lighter, funnier conclusion. The change saved the film's spirit and left audiences laughing rather than mourning. It's a powerful example of how test screenings and feedback can transform a movie's entire impact. Sometimes the difference between a flop and a classic is just one scene. This change allowed the movie to end on a note that truly honored its unique blend of humor and heart. Number 25. Mel Brooks' monster boots became a legend. After the cameras stopped rolling, the director didn't just pack up and go home. Instead, he took home the massive monster boots he'd worn during filming and wore them out to Hollywood parties, turning heads everywhere he went. The oversized boots became his personal trademark, part statement, part joke, and part homage to the film's absurdity. Wearing them, he clomped through rooms with exaggerated steps, making people laugh and reminding everyone that the spirit of the movie wasn't just on screen, it was alive off it too. His choice wasn't just about fun, it was a subtle act of rebellion against Hollywood norms, showcasing his unique blend of humor and confidence. The boots also served as a conversation starter, allowing him to share stories about the film's chaotic and hilarious production. This playful gesture perfectly captured the director's approach to comedy, fearless, bold, and never taking himself too seriously. It's the kind of quirky story that shows how deeply he lived the film, long after the final cut. Wearing those boots wasn't just about style, it was about carrying the film's legacy with every step. As we've seen, Young Frankenstein isn't just a comedy, it's a timeless celebration of creativity, chaos, and heart. From the fierce battle to keep it in black and white, to the melting makeup and Mel Brooks clomping around in monster boots, this film's weird secrets make it unforgettable. These stories remind us why it continues to charm audiences decades later. Whether you're a longtime fan or discovering it for the first time, Young Frankenstein proves that bold choices and offbeat humor can create something truly special. What was your favorite weird fact or moment from today's video? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts or any memories you have of the film. We love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like and subscribe for more fascinating secrets and stories from Hollywood's greatest classics. Stay tuned. There are many more hidden gems coming your way.